Here we have a watch from Tudor. Nice, simple black box. A very clean look with the logo on the top. Let's take the lid off. Inside we're greeted with another logo and the box itself. Let's put this outer box to the side. And let's take a closer look at this box here. So we get this felt lining on the bottom so you can slide it around without really scratching anything. We get this two-toned finish here, or two-textured finish. We get this wooden-like texture on the bottom. It is quite solid as well. And this more of matte black on the top here with the Tudor shield. Let's open her up. Inside we're getting this felt lining again with the Tudor logo, keeping the same theme, the black and red, which is very Tudor-esque. Let's take this watch off for now. And let's take a look at what we get inside. So here's the pillow, very similar to the Rolex pillow, articulates nicely. We get our cards and booklets, some information, and also a compartment for spare links and the tag. Right, very simple, nice little compartment, everything in place neatly. Let's put this box to the side and we'll get to the watch. Now, luckily for me, this does still have some of the stickers on, so let's go ahead and take these off. Let's start with the sides here. Other side. And the case back here. So let's go ahead and take this one off. Here it is. This is the Tudor Ranger. Now let's first take a look at this dial here. Here we're presented with this matte black dial and it has a very clean look to it. I like that we get these 12, 3, 6, and 9 numerals. It really does give that Rolex Explorer look, but has its own touch of character and kind of gives it its own identity. The numerals and the hour markers there have this greenish tinge to them. So it's not exactly white, and it does have this faux patina effect. The numerals and markers themselves are rather large as well, so it does provide some great legibility and as well as minimal text on the dial. So everything is rather clean and very function focused. You can see the seconds hand there. The tip is painted red as it glides across. And I like that the red is a nice touch of color, but also contrasts quite well against the black, and kind of that plain dial gives it a point of interest, but also just adds to its legibility. If you're looking for that seconds, you can immediately recognize it there. And the hands themselves, instead of the snowflake handset, we're getting this broad arrow and a pencil minute hand there. Nice touch, some nice variants, and I quite like this handset over the snowflake handset. I like that they've gone with this to kind of distinguish the Ranger range over the Black Bay range. If we take a close look at the minute track there, we can see that the color is matched with the numerals and the hour markers, and also the lume on the hands, which is quite a nice look, keeps everything cohesive, but that minute track itself isn't lumed, and we'll go ahead and take a closer look at the lume. Alright, lights are off and it's pitch black, and here we can see the lume on the dial. So you can see the numerals there, 12, 3, 6, and 9 are lumed, the hour markers, as well as all three hands, but that minute track there isn't. But really, it isn't really an issue, and this lume here is quite good. Even though it has that faux patina going on, that extra pigment doesn't really hinder its luminescence at all, and it's rather bright. Taking a look at the case here, this watch is coming in at 39mm with roughly 48mm lug to lug, a lug width of 20mm, a 12mm thickness, and 100 meters of water resistance. It has this all brushed finish to it, except for this very thin application of polish on the bezel's edge here, which is rather strange because from what I can tell, the rest of the watch is completely brushed, but I guess it does tie in nicely with the polished handset there. So it doesn't really bother me too much. It has this very utilitarian appearance to it, and it looks like a tool watch, and that's completely appropriate for what this watch aims to do, being a great everyday field watch. Now the finishing on the watch itself is fantastic. We can see the fine circular brushing on the top of the lugs going into those chamfered edges on the case there. It does have this slab side profile, so if you're familiar with either Tudors or Rolex, this will be a familiar feeling to you as well. Now the bracelet, just like the case, is brushed, and we can see here the brushing is nice and consistent throughout. Great finishing overall. Even though it's just predominantly brushed, it does still have this refined finishing to it that gives the watch a subtle elegance. Now the crown is a screw down crown, so we can see here, hand winding, screws in. Now I do notice that the crown does have a polished bevel as well, so that also ties in with that polished bezel there. Signed with the rose, very typical of Tudor. Now this bracelet here, as you can see, very oyster-esque, doesn't have the rivet style vintage look like the Black Bay, which I actually appreciate. I think this cleaner look suits the aesthetic of the watch overall. The clasp here is a fantastic clasp. As you can see, it's all brushed as well, and it is the T-fit clasp, which is a fantastic mechanism. We can see there, on the fly adjustment, and it's very sturdy. Some other clasps that I've tried in the past tend to become loose and disengage over time, but the T-fit is always a great solid clasp. We can see all those little adjustment points inside. Just pull it down in this T position and you can slide it to find your correct fit. Easy to use, and its form is quite slim as well. All right, let's get this on the wrist and see how it fits. Now my wrist size, for your reference, is 6.5 inches, and this watch is a 39mm watch. Now right off the bat, it is a very comfortable wear, and I'm really liking this clasp, the T-fit clasp, because in the past with the discontinued Black Bay models, I've had troubles finding the perfect size on my wrist, but having that T-fit adjustment system really does help in finding that perfect fit and just dialing it in to suit your wrist shape. Here we can see it's quite a nice looking watch. I'm really liking this all brushed appearance to it too, to give it that real tool watch aesthetic. Really ties in nicely with the matte dial for that rugged appearance. Now the end links here are female end links, which does help in its wearability as well. You can see there, it's wrapping nicely across my wrist. Even at its 48mm lug to lug, we can see there, because it is female end links, it doesn't really have any issues wrapping around, but you might come into problems if you have smaller wrists. The taper on this bracelet is also nice and flows into that streamlined look of the case. Now the case back here is solid, so unfortunately we don't get to see into the Tudor movement, but in my experience with Tudor movements, they are quite reliable and rather accurate over time, but we will see how accurate this one turns out to be once I spend more time with it and do my full review. I think this is overall one of the better looking Tudor watches. I really like its simplicity. I like that it draws on its heritage, and honestly, it does kind of scratch that Rolex Explorer itch while giving its own touch of character and individuality. I'm a big fan of small touches of color to a watch, and that red tipped seconds hand there is really doing a lot of work to bring a whole bunch of interest to this dial. If I just cover that red there, you can kind of imagine what this would look like. And don't get me wrong, I think it would still look great without that red, but in my opinion, that red is the thing that's winning me over when I look at this watch. It's quite an eye catcher, even though it's such a little component, a small component of the watch itself. My first impressions so far, I think the Tudor Ranger is a fantastic watch. It definitely has that Tudor DNA in its shape and structure, and it does definitely have its own characteristics that give it its own identity. I think this watch is often overshadowed by that Rolex Explorer alternative. It's always looming over this watch because, I mean, look at it. It does definitely look like the Rolex Explorer, but having it in hand and getting to spend a bit more time with it, I think I'll find that this is its own piece. There's my unboxing and first impressions of the watch, guys. Let me know what you think about this watch in the comments. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this one. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more watch content. I'll see you in the next one.